Okay. Gemara in Bava Metzia, daf Chavtet Amud Bet. By the way, next week no shiur. Chanukah.
Why? But that's my birthday.
That's one of the reasons. Anyways, so this week. Yeah. More Torah. Yeah. Do you want to learn on Nittelnacht this week?
Or is that Torah?
Hello, my name is Ori, and I'm giving this year.
Yeah, Leil Shimurim.
And you don't need to do something.
Yeah.
What is it? Shema or something?
Leil Shimurim?
Okay, yalla. Anyway.
So this week we'll be discussing a saying of Rabbi Yochanan, where he is discussing a situation that's a bit strange al panav. And to be honest, I didn't really find a very satisfying explanation for the situation. Although we're going to attempt within the Mefarshim to understand what he's talking about. And that is the case of somebody who deliberately wants to waste all of his money and slowly spend it and bleed it out. And so he gives an eitzah of how to do that in a way that's effective. So we'll see. The first half of the shiur we'll be discussing what is Rabbi Yochanan talking about. Maybe we'll try to understand why this is something that would require advice, who's doing this sort of thing. And the second half of the shiur we'll be discussing specific points of the advice itself. The details about how a person is supposed to get rid of their money. Okay? The Gemara in Bava Metzia daf Chavtet Amud Bet starts as follows. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mi שהניח לו אביו מעות הרבה ורוצה לאבדן, ילבש בגדי פשתן וישתמש בכלי זכוכית וישכור פועלים ואל ישב עמהן. So someone whose father leaves him a lot of money in an inheritance, and he wants to lose it, so he should do three things. He should wear clothes made of pishtan, linen. He should use glass utensils, glass plates and cups. And he should hire workers, but he shouldn't sit with them. He shouldn't watch over what they're doing. So yilbash bichlei pishtan bekitana romita. So the specific type of clothes being referred to is Roman silk. I think silk. Vishtamesh bichlei zchuchit bezugita chivarta, with this white glass, this very fine, expensive glass.
It's also from Italy, by the way.
Sorry?
It's also from Italy. The glass.
Okay.
Ages
Rome.
ago. No, I'm saying seriously. Like before the Medina, so they used to import special sand from Italy to make glass, clear glass.
Okay. Makes sense. V'yizkor po'alim v'al yeshev imahen, so you should hire workers, not sit with them. Targuma b'torei d'nefish pseidaihu. Talks about workers with oxen that are plowing the field, that if you're not micromanaging the workers and they're not properly attending to the oxen, there's a lot of loss inherent in how the oxen plow the field.
It's not just the workers wasting time, it's even a bigger effect.
Yeah, it's
outside of the workers.
Yeah, it's that they are not doing the job properly of watching over the oxen and making sure that they're plowing correctly.
That's way more than just losing money. That's losing and not even making nothing.
Right.
Like just spending money on expensive stuff, it's one thing, but like taking
it's a really good bang for your buck if you're trying to lose
if you're
your
Rami
money.
Levy, it's like saying Rami Levy, just buy plenty of stuff. Don't make sure that nobody actually sells those stuff.
Right. So what you're saying is good. So what is the common denominator of these different etzot? Just like you said it, but just say it a bit. In other words, like if I'm wearing fancy silk, so I get some hana'ah from it, right? But it wears out. What Rashi will say is that it wears out quickly, and so I'm spending a lot of money on something that sure I may get a very short-term hana'ah, but it's not the right way to invest that money, and I'll lose it. Same with fancy white glass. So sure, it's very nice and expensive, so I'll benefit from it, but it'll break, and it's not the right way to spend money if you want to, be financially prudent. And I think also with these workers, in other words, you're hiring workers, the oxen, they're still doing the work, but it's not nearly the most efficient way of spending your money, so you'll lose money quickly if these are the ways that you're spending it. Why would someone want this type of advice? What is Rabbi Yochanan talking about? It's very strange. Any ideas before we look at the Perushim? I said in the beginning, I'm not entirely convinced. I actually find the Ben Yoyada, which we'll see, the most convincing, but even that is a bit...
Any ideas of what?
why would somebody want to lose all of their money?
To dive into a shame
Yeah.
instead and not get
Tax harvesting?
חטופים, הם עשו משחק מילים.
What? No, tax harvesting.
שנזכר.
Tax reasons? Inheritance tax.
To avoid
Well, that's
taxes?
no actual reason.
Okay.
No, he's a Rasha.
Maybe you want to be a tzamid chacham and you want to lose all the
Exactly.
money and just be a pat balechem tochal.
Right. We did that. That was
That's the only
last
reason.
week. Okay.
That's the only
We
reason.
learned that last week. Very good.
Yeah, I think if you look at maybe I'm generalizing, but rich families and the kid is like pissed at the parents and there's enough money and he didn't work for it, the son. So he's angry, so he's spending his parents' money, losing it.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe you live in a dangerous place and you don't want to be the guy that has all the money that people go after.
You're Rashi and you're the Marsha.
Oh,
Okay. Good.
no, son, this is a thing.
So look at Rashi. Rashi says, what does this mean? Mi שהניח לו אביו מעות. The same statement of Rabbi Yochanan appears in Chulin as well. כלומר, מי שלא טרח בממון וקל בעיניו לאבדו, זהו עיבודו. So he doesn't explicitly say the idea of the son who's angry at his parents, but the idea is that he just got the money for free and he doesn't care about it because he's mefunak, or it's not something that it's easy for him to just kind of waste it away. Why would someone find money to be easy to waste away? So actually in about 10 dapim later,
Are we going to talk about
it
Yonah?
says, sorry?
Are we going to talk about Yonah? מה שבא בקלות הולך בקלות?
Yonah Navi? Not quite, but that is a good point. Right, מה שבא בקלות הולך בקלות.
We're not allowed to open peanuts in the shelf.
Okay. Guys, yeah, let's מתכנס, it's very loud. Okay. Bava Metzia, in about 10 daf, it says as follows. The Mishnah says, המפקיד פירות אצל חברו, אפילו הן אבודין לא ייגע בהן. So let's say I lend some fruits to somebody to watch over. So even if the fruits rot and become entirely, not edible, so the person who's watching them is not allowed to touch them. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel אומר, מוכרן בפני בית דין מפני שהוא כמשיב אבדה לבעלים. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel disagrees and says he can sell them and whatever the value of the rotten fruit are, he can try to redeem. So the Gemara asks, my time, what the Tanakama when he says, if I lend you fruit and you eat the fruit, or you watch the fruit, and the fruit gets spoiled, why are you not allowed to take them? They're spoiled. And the answer, Amar of Kahana, Adam.
You're saving them.
You're saving them, yeah. So, Amar of Kahana, Adam ורוצה בקו שלו מתשעה קבין של חברו. This is just a kind of a general principle that if I work for something, it's much more meaningful to me than if I get it for free, right? So, if a person worked for his fruit, so even if the fruit aren't worth so much, he's going to be much more makbid on that than if he just gets it from somebody else. So perhaps that might be what's kind of, behind the scenes of what's going on here, where מי שהניח לו אביו מעות, הרבה, ורוצה לאבדן. In other words, it's whether the son is angry or not angry, the idea being that it's just something that's easier to lose. Still, I find this tzat tachuk as kind of someone just gets a lot of money and just wants to lose it by buying all of this stuff. The Maharsha.
It could also just be a rhetorical
I asked that.
statement.
What?
יפה. If you do these three things, it's כאילו אתה רוצה
Yeah.
להביא. So don't do these three things, because
Yeah.
it's stealing.
If you want to lose your money, this is what you should be doing. Don't do that.
It's like, hey, should I invest in Bitcoin? Yeah, if you want to lose all your money.
Bitcoin is like the instead of the Roman silk, it's the
I asked
It's
this
the last
the other day.
what?
Is there any person that wants to waste his money?
Okay, so that's exactly what we're talking about right now. Very good.
But that's not.
So wouldn't someone just say, don't, why is Rabbi Yochanan phrasing it in that way then? I mean, it could be. Why not just say, don't do this, because these are ways to lose your money quickly. It's not good advice, but it could be. None of the Mefarshim I saw interpreted it that way, but it could be that's what's being implied here. The Maharsha says as follows, Ayin Pirashi, Ve'od Yishlomar Kemashma'o. So Maharsha says, this is the basic understanding. Kegon shu ashir, ve'eno rotzeh she'yit'arvu b'toch ma'otav, ki yareh pin yavo zeh v'ya'abed et zeh. Kedaminu b'ktuvo b'vat nakdimon. He doesn't want people to come and start, it's like people who win the lottery and suddenly they have all of these relatives they never knew about or starting to come bother them. He doesn't want people to start coming and bothering him about his nechassim. He said, rather just not have all of this. It's too much of a headache. Okay? So that's the Maharsha's approach. The Meiri says the following: דרך צחות, אמרו חכמים, מי שהניח לו אביו מעות של ריבית, ורוצה לאבדן, ילבש כלי פשתן וישתמש בכלי זכוכית, לבנה, ויזכור פועלים וישב עמהם.
That's what he's saying. It's rhetorical.
What do you mean?
Tzachot, no? What's tzachot?
No, tzachot is through a parable or an adage.
It's a joke.
No, I don't think that's what it
It's like
means.
a pretty way to say that.
It means that that's
Like
just how they
whatever you
communicated this idea.
No, they added in the beat.
That's the chidush of the Meiri, I think. I think the
What
chidush.
did he add?
He adds two words.
The kesef pasul.
Ma'ot shel ribit. So it's not clear if that was the Meiri's girsa or he's adding that on his own. But the point is, if the money, why does this help? Because if the money that I inherit from my father was money that was ill-gotten, so then I might not want to benefit from it, right? And it also totally changes the focus here from just being a wicked son who just wants to waste something, dafka to the opposite, that he had the wicked father and he wants to make sure, it's money. So
Maybe
then
he says it because of mעות הרבה, not just mעות. mעות הרבה. Maybe it's הרבה because of the rebit.
okay. It's also if you have ma'at, you can't buy Roman silk and fancy glass.
You didn't have to return it though, that money?
So actually, I didn't bring it, but a lot of mefarshim say, but in Bava Metzia it talks about if someone charges someone with ribit, and then they die, the Yoshim don't have to pay it back. And so he wouldn't have to pay it back, but he might not want to use that money because it was ill-gotten, so then it says you can waste it away. But
I think he's saying it's rhetorical. And I think Shel Ribis is a sefer of Harbe.
Shel ribit is a tout sofrim of Harbe.
Yeah. That's my view.
Okay.
I'm starting on it.
Okay.
But it's okay.
Okay.
I'm excited.
I was with you for the first part. I think the Shel Ribit also makes sense because it's in the context of discussing Ribit and Bava Metzia and this and that. Okay, anyways. But that's the Meiri's approach.
And then when reading from the eyes of Mary, why are those the three ways of doing it? Like pen staka, do something good with it.
You took the words right out of my mouth. So even the Meiri doesn't satisfy me. Because, okay, give it to tzedakah, give it to hekdesh. That's why good.
Why meant you waste it?
Why waste it? So that's why the Ben Yoyada of all the answers is the one that is the least satisfying to me. Okay? What does the Ben Yoyada say? Inami, he goes through a whole thing, and then he says at the end, or alternatively, Ari be'adam sheyesh lo banim ra'im, kulam mena'afim ve'osim ma'aseh resha b'mamunam. So this is talking about a man who inherited the money from his father, but his offspring are all wicked people. והוא יש לו ממון שבא לו בירושה מאביו, שזה הממון הוא ידוע אצל בניו. So the sons know, and this is no secret to any of us, that when a grandparent gets kind of old, the children start kind of saying, what's going on with the Yerusha, and these are wicked children, so they know he has a lot of money from inheritance. ואין יכול להעלימו מהם, you can't, avoid telling them about it. וגם אם, this is exactly what we just said, וגם אם יקדישהו או ייתנו במתנה לאחרים, so why doesn't he give this money to tzedakah? יקפידו בניו ויעשו רעה בו. His children will say, why are you giving all of our inheritance to tzedakah? How could you do that? We're your children. And they'll cause a ruckus, right? They'll cause all this drama in the family about it, and they may even do worse than that. ולכן ייתנו לו עצה בשלושה דברים כדי שיכלה הממון ולא יגיע ליד בניו לעשות בו עבירות חמורות. So it's saying, if he goes and he buys these things, so it doesn't go to his children, because he doesn't want his wicked children to inherit the money, but also they can't really come and explicitly say, you just didn't give us the money. He say, when I bought these things, it was a bad investment. He can kind of feign, he can pretend that it wasn't something that he did on purpose.
I bought an apartment in Dimona, I thought it would be great.
What?
I bought an apartment in Dimona.
I bought an apartment in Dimona, b'diuk, yeah. And then next to the cool guy. Anyway, okay.
Textile.
Right. So, it's the problem with Ben Yoyada is it limits it to a very specific kind of set of circumstances. So why is Rabbi Yochanan addressing that? But to me, at least that kind of explains some of the questions that we had earlier. Okay? So those are the examples. David Moshe tried to innovate another potential explanation. Okay. So let's assume for a moment that this is a use case. What are these etzot? Okay, so Tosfot actually has a few comments on the etzot. This was for Shimon, it's not even here, but I want to fit on 2 pages, so I wanted to get a very, very tiny makor here. So the main thing that we're going to be talking... You can read it? The main thing I want to be talking about is where it says, "V'ishtamesh b'chelei zchuchit." Okay, so they should buy, white glass, glass utensils, and then what does that mean? Zugita chivarta. It means white glass. Okay, so first of all, let's look at a Gemara in Sotah and Daf Memchet Amud Bet. It's in the context. The very end of Sotah has a whole bunch of examples of when this person died, this thing left the world. When that thing died, that when the Churban Beit HaMikdash happened, this thing left the world. It has a whole bunch of examples of things that were in the world that left after certain occurrences happened. Okay, so it says Amar Rabbi Ami Mishacharav Beit Mikdash Rishon, when the first Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, Batla Shira Pardneda V'Zchuchit Levana. So these fancy silks and white glass left the world. Tanina Mihachi, we have another Baita which teaches similarly. Mishacharav Mikdash Rishon, Batla Shira Pardneda V'Zchuchit Levana V'Rechev Barzel, and it adds also iron chariots. V'yeshomim Av Yain Krosh Haba Misnir. Also this diluted wine, I think that comes from Snir, which is in the Chermon. Hadomeli Gulei Dvelas, that tastes like honey cakes. Hey, in other words, when the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, these fancy, beautiful, delicious things left the world because there was an aspect of something was lost from the world, and this is white glass, fancy silk, and iron chariots. Okay?
But that's yummy?
And also a specific wine that's yummy. What? What? Yeah. So Tosfot, which I'll just say it outside. Tosfot, he asks, what's the problem with what this Gemara says and what Rabbi Yochanan said?
How could they buy zchuchit?
Right. How can Rabbi Yochanan, who lived hundreds of years after Churban Beit HaMikdash, Rishon,
Maybe that's why.
say...
Basically spending on nothing.
Buy Bitcoin, it doesn't exist.
Okay.
You want to lose it? Just spending on nothing.
Put in a Ponzi scheme.
You're saying...
Well, exactly.
A Ponzi scheme.
We're Jewish. We
Everything
did that.
looks like it.
No, that's actually really interesting. Tosfot doesn't give that answer, and I hadn't thought of that. But you're saying he's suggesting...
I don't want to say that. You can't buy something that doesn't exist. That's stupid. That's what he said.
No, but it's an interesting idea. Rabbi Yochanan's giving advice of buy these fancy things that don't... In other words, but he's using it derech tzachut, like as a real metaphor to say, and those things don't exist anymore. Mm-hmm. So that they... Man, okay.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. What Tosfot says is that when it says batla zchuchit levana, so it doesn't mean legamre. It just means it became much less common. Right? So in the days of Beit Rishon, you could find zchuchit levana everywhere. Afterwards, it's something that's very rare, but it still exists, which is why Rabbi Yochanan says you can go out and buy it. That's what Tosfot says.
It's too expensive.
Yeah.
How yummy is zchuchit levana?
You don't eat zchuchit levana.
Why did you say you eat
It's
it?
as yummy as this.
No, you said the wine is yummy.
The wine is
Oh,
It doesn't grow on trees.
how yummy.
The Gemara in Brachot also talks about zchuchit levana, and I think this should all be familiar to us. Okay, so the Gemara asks, "Mai v'gilu bir ada." There's a pasuk, right, that says that you should be joyful in trembling. What does that mean to be joyful in trembling? So Amar Rav Ada bar Matna Amar Rabba b'makom gila sham teher ada. Then in a place of joy there should also be sadness or trembling or fear. What does that mean? Ma?
Like a wedding.
Like a wedding. Yofi, good. We're getting to that. Exactly. That's the interpretation. Abai have yativ kamed Rabba chazi dahaka badachtuva. So first of all, these are just a great series of anecdotes here. Okay, so Abai was sitting before Rabba, who was his teacher. He saw that Rabba was a bit too. He was joking around a bit too much. He was too happy, right? Too much b'dichuta.
Who's the rabbi?
Rabba was a big Rav. So Amar v'gilu biradaktiv. So he says, "You're being a bit too frivolous, aren't you, master? It says gilu birada. You need to, tone it down." So Amar le ana tefillin menachna. So Rabba says, "I'm wearing tefillin." So that somehow that's focusing me, and I'm not losing my head. Similarly, Rabbi Yirmiyah Havakayativ the Kamid Rabbi Zera Chazid Hakada Badachtuva Amar le b'chol etzev yemutaktiv. Amar le ana tefillin menachna. So same idea, but different pasuk. Okay. Mar berei de Ravina avad hilula lebrei. So the son of Ravina was making a wedding for his son. Chazinhu the Rabbanan dehavu kabat chetuva. And at the wedding, Mar saw that the rabbis were being a bit too loose. Ate kasa de mokra bat arba meazuze v'tavar kamayhu v'atzivu. So Mar took a silver cup that was worth 400 zuz, and he smashed it in front of them, and they all became sad.
This is where it comes from.
That's the cup, yeah.
How did he smash your silver?
What? With a hammer, I don't know.
It's strong.
Actually, the makor is this next one. Rav Ashi avad hilula lebrei. Rav Ashi also made a wedding for his son. Chazin l'Rabbanan dehavu kabat chetuva. Similarly, saw the rabbis were being too joyous at the wedding. Aite kasa de zugita chivarta v'tavar kamayu v'yetzivu. Okay, he took a white glass, he smashed it in front of the rabbis. They became sad. Tosfot says on this. Right. Tosfot says on this actually. That's where the minhag comes from. Is from this. Okay. The minhag to break the glass is from these stories.
Where does the minhag of the badchin come from?
What?
The badchin.
What?
At Hasidic weddings, at the end of the wedding, is
There's
a
your answer.
comedian.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
No, you know,
Except
they're doing
for-
the funny things with the hand.
No, but they
biting
do
you.
a whole stand-up bit. Making fun of the kala, the chas, and the family, the father, the mother.
No, it's like
So,
a deal
everybody's kind.
to him.
Okay.
So next time you go to a wedding, they start the batchen. You have to run in and say Vigilu birada,
And then break the
and
glass.
then break
And
it.
everyone scream, Mazel tov!
That's the thing. People know you break the glass to add some kind of zecher l'churban, but right away people are just mazel tov. It kind of misses the point, the original point of what. It's also clear from this story, I think, that when Rav Ashi broke the glass, it wasn't at the chuppah.
Right.
It was, at the celebration.
That's how things start in Judaism.
Right, but in other words, this is where the minhag comes from. Okay. But what's specific here? So what is the wait? Let's actually finish this.
Glass makes people sad when you smash it.
So at a wedding, the minhag is right when the chatan and kala get married. The chatan smashes his foot on a glass, and it's breaking something expensive. So it makes people kind of just take a moment to reflect. But let's finish this Gemara and then ask the question. Okay? So it says. This one is my favorite one, actually. Okay, so it says Amru le Rabbanan Rav Hamnuna Zute behilula demar berei Ravina. So first of all, unless it's a different son. Oh no! So this is the wedding. The previous one was Mar berei Ravina was making a wedding for his son. Now the rabbis asked Rav Hamnuna Zute at Mar berei Ravina's own wedding. So like a generation before. Mar berei Ravina was getting married, and the rabbis asked Rav Hamnuna Zute at his wedding, Lishrei lan Mar. So they said to him, "You have a beautiful voice. Can you sing some songs at the wedding?" So Amar lehu. So he says, "Vailan demitnan, vailan demitnan." So he says, "I'll sing you a song. Woe to us, we're all going to die. Woe to us, we're all going to die." That's the song that he sang. Right, so
Why did he still we are going to
die. Right, so Amrule, so what did they say to him? Anan mana ane batrach. They're like, we don't know the next verse in that song, right? How are we supposed to answer?
Do the karaoke.
What are the next words? So Amar Lehu, he said to them, Hi Torah v'hai mitzvah de maganu alan. So Baruch Hashem that we have the Torah and the mitzvahs to protect us. Right?
We didn't sing that.
Right. So what's the idea? He says, everyone keep in mind, don't get too worked up, don't get too out of hand at the wedding.
We're going to die, we're going to die.
So he was trying to say that it's important to be very happy at a wedding, but also to remember,
Like a stand-up.
not to let yourself go too far. Yeah. Or he was the badchan and he thought dark humor and he thought that was a good joke. I don't know. Okay. ואמר רבי יוחנן משום בן יוחאי, אסור לאדם שימלא שחוק פיו בעולם הזה.
But that's a funny song.
A person should fill his...
Oh, I have to sing.
Yes, exactly. A person should... You're right. A person should not fill his mouth with laughter and frivolity in this world. Pasuk we're all familiar with. Ematai. Bizman she'omru bagluim migdil Hashem lasot imele. Right? Az yimal eschok pinu l'shen but not now. Only, the end of days. Amur alav arish lakish shemiyamav lo malei schok piv ba'olam hazeh mikish sham'a mipi Rabbi Yochanan Rabbe. So once Reish Lakish heard this teaching, he made sure never to have schok b'piv for the rest of his life. Okay, so here's a whole bunch of
בזמן שאמרו בגויים.
right that it's important to find a balance between being too it's important to be happy and to laugh and to be joyous. It's also important to be somebody who's serious. Okay.
It's our reactions.
Why did I bring this Gemara though? Right, what does it have to do with what we learned before? We went on a bit of a tangent here, but what's the connection to what we were learning earlier?
Oh, breaking glass.
Right, and what's the problem?
Makes you sad.
And what's the Asma?
That's from Kiss.
Meaning, well, no, that supports what Rabbi Yochanan said. No, the fact that he broke this glass meant it was something that was very expensive. So that's a way to it's very expensive. But what's the issue? It's similar to what we asked before from the Gemara Sotah. That Tosfot asked.
It wasn't around.
Yeah. In other words, how is there a white glass in the days of
Not
Rav
so
Ashi?
expensive. Why did they break it?
Well, that's why.
Well, that's the whole point, is to make them sad because it was very expensive.
Like if I took this and tore it apart, you won't really mind, but.
Right. So the answer is similar to what Tosfot said before. In other words, if
Five.
Five money.
Five money?
okay, if
It's a whole tooth.
I lost my train of thought. If Tosfot, right, if you go based on what Tosfot said about that from when there was the Churban, we no longer have white glass. So how in the days of Rav Ashi was there white glass at the wedding? So it's similar to what Tosfot said. It doesn't mean it's completely gone, just that now it's very expensive. Okay, very nice. Similar idea. Where in the Gemara Shabbat Daf Chaf Amud Bet, so Ravin ve'Abai havu yatve kamei de Rabbana the Nehemia achor Resh Geluta. So Ravin and Abai were sitting before the brother of the exilarch in Bavel. Chazi dahava lavish mitaksa, and they saw he was wearing these fancy silks. So Amar le Rabin le'Abai hainu kalach ditnan. Okay, so they're discussing some context of the Mishnah there on Shabbat. So this is the silk that the Mishnah is referring to, is what this person's wearing. So Amarle, but I said to him, Anan Shira Pardana Karinanle. So he says the way we refer to it is this fancy silk. So this Shira de Pardana is what we saw back in the Gemara Sotah, that the Braita said, Mishachar Mikdash Rishon, but la Shira Pardana. So how can the brother of the Resh Geluta be wearing something that after the Churban Bayit Rishon was destroyed and no longer existed in the world? Again, comes Tosfot to the rescue and says, it doesn't mean it was totally gone, it just means that it's much rarer than it used to be. Okay? V'im Tomar, Tosfot here says, Mashma d'zchuchit levana hayta b'mei Rabbi Yochanan v'chein b'brachot d'tavar zchuchit levana b'chatunat beno ובפרק הגלה ערופה תנא משכב בית המקדש בטלה שיר הפרדנה וזכוכית לבנה ויש לומר לגמרי בטלה אלא דאינה מצויה כמו בזמן בית המקדש וכן צריך לומר גם בשיר הפרדנה דאמר בפרק במדליקים which we just saw דרב מביידה וקו יתמי קאמה Rabbi Nechemia Rish Geluta. Okay, here it says Rabbi Nechemia was the Rish Geluta instead of his brother. Okay, Chazi de Hava Lavish Metachsa. Amalei Rav in the Abai Havu Kalach Ditnan. Amalei Anan Shir Pardon the Krina Be. Okay, so it gives that answer. Umir Rabbeinu Tam Befaresh. The Kalach de Matnitin Kai the Kai the Shir Pardon. Okay, it's a machloket on the guess. Okay.
Maybe the Rish Geluta had to get rid of his dad's money. That's why he has it.
Okay, say it again. The Rish Galuta.
Why does he have this shir upon this again?
Yeah.
He did what Rabbi Yochanan said. He wanted to get rid of it.
Wanted to get rid of his father's money.
He was one to the right family.
And also Rav Ashi, and also yeah. Okay.
And these explanations, feels like the Tosfot are kind of twisting themselves in a knot due to the discomfort that arises from these situations where it says a descriptive statement that this no longer exists, and then they say, oh, no, it doesn't exist, it's just rare. So, they kind of explaining to their modern day reader, do you think like people that actually did own lavish, expensive things that existed in Beis HaMikdash and they weren't supposed to, but then they have to justify it because it was Reish Galuta, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand your question. The way I would Tosfot's big qualm comes from this statement that when the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, these things were nullified. And I think from the context of that, Sugi and Sota, I'm not as bothered by the question as Tosfot, because I think the point that's being made is not about the there was a lot of white glass in 700 BC, and now in the times of the Amorim there's no more white glass. It's rather saying that these beautiful, fancy things don't exist anymore, in the sense that the world lost something when the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, something that was glorious and in a lot of splendor.
Like what they say about
Yeah.
lots of amirot, like
But
since that happened, there's no point of living.
my favorite one, by the way.
It's a descriptive nature of what they're saying.
Yeah, but Tosfot's understanding it.
Ceases to exist.
But Tosfot's understanding it literally, and so because he understands this statement literally, he has to kind of qualify that it doesn't mean it was completely removed,
No,
just
I'm not
that
saying
it becomes much
every
rarer.
line
Maybe there
or
weren't any new imports, but there were still things of old
Maybe
hanging
Kroger wasn't
around.
able to import them.
Already talked about it.
My favorite example from this set of things in Sutta, which also kind of supports what I just said, is what I think the broader point is. But also, I think it's a really good Gemara. So in that list, it says Misha. When this rabbi died, this thing left the world. When this rabbi died, so it says Misha met. I forget who it was. Anava batla me'olam. Right, that humility left the world. What? Rabbi Zera, thank you. And then Rav Yosef says, but I'm still here, right? Which is just it's great. It's just sharp. Like, what is he saying, right? Anna, like, what about me? You forgot about me, right? No, so what is? It's clear that he's making some point, right? He understands the irony of what he's saying.
Who forgot about it?
Daniel in the club with the
Yeah.
Rabbi said the Benjamin because of his tefillin.
Who forgot about it?
That's the Rashi where it says
Yosef.
Rav Yosef. Sorry?
He says Shminit Shel
Tell me
Shminit.
that as an Italian.
Yeah, right. He has a tiny bit of the No, it's that when a certain Rav died, humility left the world. And then there's another Rav who says, but I'm still here. And it's kind of funny, because if you say I'm still here, then you're not the most humble. So it's an interesting thing to say. B'kitzur, it's a good question. I think Tosfot, that's just how he resolves the contradiction between the sugyot. I want to just conclude now with the Gemara in Chulin, which also quotes the statement of Rabbi Yochanan. Right afterwards, it quotes another statement, which also talks about how a person should spend his money. But instead of saying how a person who wants to get rid of his money should waste it, it talks about how, in general, a good Eitzah Tovah of how people should spend their money in general. And I like this idea a lot, so I want to conclude with it. Darash Rabbi Avira, Zimnin Amar La Mishmei Rabbi Ami, Zimnin Amar La Mishmei Rav Asi. Okay, so sometimes he says it in the name of one Rav, sometimes he says it in the name of the other Rav. Mai dichtiv tov ish chonen u'malvei chalkel dvarav b'mishpat. לעולם יאכל אדם וישתה פחות ממה שיש לו, וילבש ויתכסה במה שיש לו, ויכבד אשתו ובניו יותר ממה שיש לו, שהן תלויים בו, והוא תלוי במי שהיה ואמר העולם, מי שאמר והיה העולם. Right, that a person has a certain amount of money, and that means he can live a certain way. He has a certain lifestyle that he can support and afford, a certain socioeconomic status. So he should eat himself less than he'd be able to afford, because he should try to live in a way that's more modest and humble. He should not eat as much as he could buy if he wanted to. He should dress on the level that he can afford. Why is that different than eating? Because there's also an aspect of you don't want to look like a schlub, and then that's embarrassing, right? A person needs to dress a way that doesn't make him dishonored in the eyes of others. So there is an idea to, even if you personally don't care about how you look, but you still need to dress a certain way. And in terms of honoring your family or providing for your family, you should do more than you can afford. Why? Because you're giving to the people that are dependent on you, and that's the biggest kind of tzedakah that you can do, is to make sure that your wife and your children have more than what they need. Why? They're tluyin b'cha. So you have a responsibility to give them even more than you can afford. Maybe you can take from the money that you saved by not eating and drinking as much and provide for your family. And you're talui b'mi she'ayav amar v'ya'olam. The idea being that you also have to, that the reason why you should live this way is to remember that all your money always comes from Hashem. It's always a gift, and it's not something that you should always say, right? Ani ani asitiv, but rather it's a gift. This last point actually is a bit interesting. I struggle with it a bit. Because if you honor your children more than you can afford, so then you're also getting them used to a certain lifestyle. And the question is if there's a negative side effect to that. That if you're mefanik, in a way beyond what. But I guess what Rav Avira might be teaching here is if they see you like living in a modest way, less than what you would be able to afford, and much less than what you're giving them, then that dugma ishit perhaps will rub off on them. So even if you give them what they want when they grow up, they'll say, I should still try to live my life the way that my father did, and not necessarily, learn from what you gave them when they were younger, but kind of live in a more modest lifestyle. That's how I would kind of interpret Rav Avira's statement in a positive way.
Or you're supposed to ask for something now. Anything you want.
What am I supposed to ask?
Let's go to Big and buy.
Don't get me started. I'm turning off the recording on the big. That's not. You don't want to get me started on that.
Big.
The big.